Okay, let's get started. What we're going to be going over today is some terminology used, accessibility requirements, how it works. We're actually going to be logging into a test version, making some content. So we're going to be making a About Us page and possibly a web form. I'm going to be making it. You guys can make it along with me if you'd like. And we're going to be going over how to approve content and the differences between editors and approvers and that sort of stuff. So to begin, what is a CMS? So a CMS is a content management system, and it's a multi-user system that has different roles, and it allows people to create content while restricting to those roles. So basically, you can create a site and have different people be able to do different things. So not everyone has the ability to delete the whole site if you just want, the intern to be able to make posts every so often. A GUI is a graphical user interface. It basically makes it so that you can, you don't have to code. The code is, just easy pictures or easy words and that sort of stuff. And while you can code, there is a way to use HTML in Drupal. It's mostly just like you put in a picture, you put in a graph, that sort of stuff. It's just images and words instead of having to go into the whole HTML of it. And it simplifies website management by handling page and web page creation and file management. So a thing about it, like continuing, is that content is handled as its own entity separate from the page it's displayed on. They used to have to make the web pages on the computers before uploading them to the site. That's what CMSs prevent. It's all up in the cloud, so you don't have to create the web page on the computer and upload it. You're able to just create it right on the site. And it also allows for flexibility, so you don't have to make sure that the web page is on the flash drive with you at all times. You can just log into a different computer and work on the web page. And something good is that there's templates. So it's kind of like how every single Wikipedia page looks the same. Even though they have different information and different setups and that sort of stuff, they all look the same. So key terminology, the content types are what's gonna kind of be going out the window soon, but there will be, some overlap. And the user roles, those are what different people do within the system. So different content types are pages. That's what we're going to be working on today. Articles, those are time-sensitive pages. So like if you're having a potluck, that would be an article, because after the potluck happens, you can get rid of it. Web forms, that's just surveys. Slideshows, those are pictures and that sort of stuff. Announcements, that's news placed on sidebars and that sort of stuff. It's basically something that can link to an article. So again, you could show on your page that you're having the potluck. FAQs, frequently asked questions, that's obvious. And staff lists, those are the directories and that sort of stuff. The user roles, there are editors. They are able to create and edit content, but they're not able to publish. Approvers are able to do all that and publish. And then administrators do everything else. They choose the roles for other people. They content manage. They do the menus. They do everything. So going on, this part's very important, web accessibilities. So thanks to the ADA and Section 504 and 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, we are required to we are required to have our websites accessible to everyone. So everyone has to be able to perceive, navigate, interact, and contribute to the websites. This has to be independent of a single ability. So if someone can't see, they have to be able to still go through the website. If they can't hear, you know, they still have to be able to manage the website. And it benefits people even without disabilities. So people with changing abilities due to aging, you know, some people prefer to use keyboard instead of mouse. And people with temporary disabilities. So if you broke an arm, if your pupils are dilated, or if you have like really bad flu and you can't hear that day. So it's just good all around to have your website accessible. Luckily, Drupal simplifies some of the accessibility. So some of the stuff that's handled is like, we don't have to define, well, we do have to define headers, but it's easy to just click down to define the header instead of having to put it in ourselves. And when we try to enter in a photo, it won't let us put that photo without the alternative text. So it's stuff like that. But that's why some of the stuff we have to set manually, alternative text, color contrast, we can't have light on light or dark on dark. And link requirements, the links can't just say click here, even if you define it beforehand. As long as it's outside the link, it doesn't really count. Because for screen readers are able to find the links themselves, but they're not able to read right before then like we are. If you have a specific thing that you're trying to show, you can have like, if you're going to a different website, you could say homepage instead of click here for the homepage or something like that. So it has to be like what the thing is, you know? So that's why it's just easier to do that anyway. It's so that the screen readers can find it easily without having to go through who knows amount of text to get the context. Table row and column headers must be defined. So when you have a table, let's just say that it's an easy 9x9 table with like the name, phone, email, and then 2 people in the table. If you don't define the columns and that sort of stuff, it will go through each thing, you know, in order instead of having you be able to skip from one thing to another. So we'll be going through it more later, but it's just easier for everyone to have it defined. And finally, web forms, they must be in a logical and intuitive order. So always have the name before the email, that sort of stuff. It's weird that you're asking for, you know, the information before you ask for the name, that sort of deal. And the types must match. So in the web forms, they have an email type. So you shouldn't have a put your name here and an email type. And it's just easier to have an email type as an email. Continuing, appropriate header structure. So when you're doing a header, we'll be going over this too. Don't just bold the header, actually define it as a header. Make sure the content's easy to read, so no redundant text, no blocks of text. Make sure the tab orders are in a logical order. Make sure your videos have closed or open captions. Closed captions are ones that you're able to turn off if you want, and open captions are ones that are embedded into the video. And then time responses, make sure that everyone has time to respond. So even if you think 30 seconds is enough time, make sure that it actually is.